Alright guys, Jay Product Performance here. So this is very controversial subject, very lengthy subject. It's kind of one of those things that, I don't know, we can debate about all day long, and I'll probably continue to change my opinion on these matters for the rest of my life, but a lot of it has to do with your customer base and application. So I want to talk a little bit about torque converters. This is like I said, a subject that's got a lot to it and a lot of different opinions in it. So my goal here, I do converters for kind of everything, GM, Chrysler. Not too much Chrysler these days, but I still do GMs, done a lot of GMs, but I primarily do Fords. So my goal here is to give options to the Ford guys that is available to the GM guys. There is not a lot out there for the Fords, and don't get upset if you either have a converter shop or deal with a converter shop and then, well, man, they got all kinds of stuff for Ford. What are you talking about? Well, some people probably do. So, let's just put that disclaimer in there. But my experience in the marketplace and the people that are coming to me are generally wanting something a little bit different than what most people are wanting to provide. So here's what I mean by that. The most popular converter on the market today is this one here. This is, it's a 245 millimeter GM, and some people call it a 9-inch, some call it a 9.5 inch, some call it a 10-inch. We call it a 10-inch here. Everybody's kind of got a different name for it, but it's a GM converter, and it doesn't mean it just fits GMs. We adapt this to anything, Chrysler, Ford, whatever you got. But this is the core. It's a GM part is what it is, and it just gets modified to fit given applications, okay? Most popular converter on the market today. And this is generally when you go for a performance torque converter for pretty much anything, a lot of times they're going to sell you this. The other converter that's very popular, that was kind of what started the whole thing, and I apologize, I don't have one here on my table today. I don't do a lot of them anymore, is the 8-inch Opal converter. That's a very good converter. And they make those new because you can't get the cores anymore. I think they're starting to make these new because these cores are getting hard to come by too. But anyways, 8-inch converter is a good converter for something that generally lower power, smaller engines that need a high stall, like 4,500 and up, 4,500 to 6,000 roughly. These here, you can get a lot of, this is what's called the pump, and you can get them with a lot of different fin angles and things. The stator, which this is a 245 millimeter stator, there's different ones of these, so they can cover a pretty broad range, and for a lot of years, this was kind of a, the core was easy to get, they were inexpensive, so everybody tooled up for these. They made, billet covers for them, and turbine hubs, and impeller hubs, and data races, all that stuff. This is what everybody just decided was kind of the converter. And it really kind of was the converter for a while. And I've built a ton of them. I don't build them that much anymore, because what's happened, at least in my customer base, is everybody's got these big cubic inch engines now. So this converter here, if you're doing quarter mile stuff or, a lot of street driving and things like that, they don't couple as well as some other converters. So what happened was, and again, I apologize, I don't have this either on the table. I don't build a lot of these anymore, but I went to a 10 1/4 inch converter, which is a little bit bigger than this. It takes a stator very similar to this. The one-way clutch in it is much more, it's a much more heavy-duty one-way clutch. This is the 10 1/2 inch converter stator, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But it actually is the same stator as the 10 1/4. I'm sorry, not the same stator, the same one-way clutch in it, okay, which is much more heavy duty than this one here, our 10 inch converter. So that was a nice upgrade as the power and the engines got bigger. Primarily what I build now, I build a lot of these. This is a 10 1/2. This has kind of become my favorite converter. And again, this all depends on application. So don't say, well, man, I had one of those and now I got a 245 millimeter, 10 inch, and it's way better. Well, maybe for you, for what you're doing. Again, this is all about application, so there's no rule here. I'm not going to tell you never buy a 10 inch, they're junk. No, I'm not going to say that. It's just, I might tell you not to buy one. Just depends on what your application is, okay? And that's, my God, that's a long, drawn-out topic, getting into applications and what to use. So I just want to kind of briefly go over some things today. I'm not going to go into great depth. There's just not enough time in the day for that. I would have to break that up into several sections. And I'll chisel away at that as I have time. But so if you look at these two side by side, okay, this being the 10 1/2, this being the 10, and then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to drop it inside, and you can see, that 1/2 inch doesn't sound like a lot of difference, but it really is. It's pretty significant. And if you compare, here's the status. So here's your 10 1/2 on the right, and here's your 10 inch on the left here. You can see a big difference in there. I'll put them on top of each other. That view might not be as revealing, but this is just a much heavier stator, heavy duty stator than this one is. It's not very tall. It's kind of flat, This one's taller. It's got more depth to it and everything. And like I said, the one-way clutch is stronger, which is nice. And here's the turbines. So here's your 10 inch, the smaller one. And here's your 10 1/2. And you can see, we'll put them on top of each other. I mean, it's a big difference, and when you have a large torquey engine and or a heavy vehicle, you need the surface area. These tend to be a lot more spongy. And I think any of you guys that have had high stall converters, you kind of know what I'm talking about. They just, when you take off from a line, off the line at, a kind of a normal takeoff, not a wide open throttle takeoff, but it just, it feels loose. It just doesn't connect as well. When you go to this, you notice, and sometimes you need that looseness. Again, this all depends on application. It depends on your gearing, the weight of the vehicle, how much torque the engine makes. I deal with a lot of different customers. There's not really too many things that I don't see, I don't think, but I would say the majority of my customers these days are building these big cubic inch engines, 500, to 600-inch engines. And this little 10-inch, it just doesn't work for those. Unless it's a deal where it's 1/8 mile or it's a mud drag and you're wanting a ton of stall, you know, you're wanting 5,000 stall or something, then I might do one of these for you. Of course, we can't use this wimpy one-way clutch anymore for something like that. So we either go spragless or you have to retrofit a mechanical diode in it or something. And in that case, you got to replace this stator altogether. You know, usually you have to do like a steel stator with a diode, and that gets pretty pricey. Even sometimes on the 10.5, depending on somebody's power level, you know, if they're much over 1,000, we'll upgrade that to a diode as well. I don't have one of those here to show you, but they're expensive and they add a lot to the cost. But so what I want to tell you is this. If you've got a C6 or a C4 or an AOD, 4R70W, most of the time for higher stall stuff, they want to sell you this, the 10-inch, because that's what they have. And I've fought for a long time to have other options like the 10.25 and the 10.5. And one of the things that's going on right now, a few months ago, we had a supplier. Well, let me back up. Okay, this is a cover. This is what's called the cover. This is a billet cover. I recently made this here. I used to make these, I don't know, looking back at my CAD files, I think 6-8 years ago. I was making them in-house. Then we had a supplier that was making them, because these are a pain to make, and they're very time-consuming, but I didn't really want to spend that much time on these covers. I'd rather buy them. So we had a company we were buying them from. They went out of business, I don't know, 2 years ago or something. Then we got another company that was doing them. Well, I don't know what's happened with them. Them, and I'm not going to say who they are, but them and another big converter company got bought out by, I don't know, somebody, an investment group or something. I don't know what they are, but another company bought these two companies, and they've combined everything. And they swear up and down that has nothing to do with this, but long story short, for like the last 3 months or so, they haven't been sending me any of these covers. You know, they don't have them. So I don't know what's going on. They're very, you know, I've dealt with these guys for probably at least 10 years, and it's disappointing that they're kind of being, I don't know, kind of secretive about what's going on. And I'm kind of a big mouth, and I straight up asked them, look, I see you got bought by an investment company. You know, sounds like some corporate BS is going on. And, you know, no. You know, what are you saying that for? That's not true. That's going to make everything better. All right, whatever. You know, all I know is they're not supplying me anymore. And here I am having to make these things again. You know, this is a pain. This is a 70-pound piece of stock. I have to make these out of solid. This is a 70-pound piece of steel. And by the time it's all cut down like this, we're at 10 pounds. So, you know, out of 70 pounds, there's only 10 pounds left to it. Now, can you imagine, you know, I start cutting these and I'm spending my day hauling chips to the dumpster. You know, it's a terrible waste. It's a terrible waste of time. It's a nice piece, and they come out good and all that, but it's just a lot of work. So I've had to go back to doing this. That's kind of set my schedule back lately. But anyways, the point is, I go through all this trouble because most of you guys that I deal with, you need this bigger converter. And I can't stress that enough. You're not going to be happy with the 10-inch if you have one of these 500 plus cubic inch engines. Unless, like I said, maybe it's eighth mile or a mud drag application and you're wanting like 5,000 stall or something. Okay, this might work okay for you. You know, and they're cheaper because everybody's tooled up for these. So you don't have somebody like me making a handful of these at a time, spending countless hours to hog all that material away. Here's another thing I do. I build a lot of 12-inch converters. And this is a billet cover for a 12-inch. This is for C6, C4, AOD, 12-inch. Now I buy this cover, but it's actually for a different application. It doesn't fit any of those transmissions. I do a lot of machine work to it to make it work on those applications. So it's, you know, it's almost like I'm buying a forging and whittling it down to make it work for what I need. So that's a little bit of work there, but it's not bad. I do a lot of these, and they're pretty reasonably priced. I've never seen anybody else doing billet covers on 12 inches for these Fords. Maybe somebody is, I don't know, I'm sure, but these older Ford transmissions, nobody cares about. You know, they got some really nice E4OD and 4R100 and 5R110 converters and 6R80s. You know, everybody's doing that and making billet covers and things, but C4, C6, AOD, people are kind of like, why bother? Not enough market. Well, that's what I do. I do the, you know, the grunt work of the industry, the stuff that doesn't sell a lot, but there's a call for it. You know, there's some people that really need this stuff and appreciate it because they can't get it anywhere else. So another thing I'm just going to briefly just go over here is everybody asks about balloon plates. Well, these billet covers and things eliminate the need for the balloon plate on the cover because, you know, they're designed to be thicker. Okay, so that's kind of how that's dealt with there in the older days, and people still do this, and it's fine, but you take like the stock cover that's just a thin sheet metal, and then you weld flanges and things onto it to make it stronger. Okay, that's one way of doing it. That's kind of what people used to do years ago before people started producing stuff like this. The other place you put one, let's show you here. So this is just the factory hub. This is fairly thin in this area, so a lot of times you'll want to put a balloon plate here. So this is one style. It's kind of a combination impeller hub with a balloon plate. You know, it's a one-piece deal. And sometimes people make them two-piece. They'll weld this on here. Either way. So this is your balloon plate down here, this portion. So that's one style. Another style is this washer. So you'll put your normal impeller hub like this on it, and then you'll slide this over, and then you'll weld it around here, and then weld it around in here. And this is just a thick washer. It's a reinforcing plate. So that's another style of balloon plate. I use a lot of these. I use a fair amount of these too. This is another style of balloon plate, and this is a really thick, heavy piece. I don't really use these too much anymore. I've got some left, but the company that was making these went out of business, and I could make these, but I generally don't. I generally don't need them, and they're so heavy, you know. But it's a good piece. So that's just another option. And then, you know, there's different styles, I'm sure. You know, the sky's the limit there. But anyways, so that's kind of the lowdown on this deal. It just shows you some differences. There's a lot of other different cores and things that people use that I'm not showing you here. There's even other things that I use that I don't happen to have on my table today, but I would say today, right now, what I build the most of is this 10.5, and I do a lot of these 12 inches. That's primarily what I've been doing lately. Some other stuff in between, but those are the two biggest sellers for me, so that's why it's important for me to have these covers, even if I got to go through hell and back to make them. You know, and I enjoy this because I was a machinist by trade, but it's a lot of work for me to do it, and, you know, it's not something where, you know, I don't sell hundreds of converters a year, you know, or hundreds of this style to, you know, really set up a production shop doing these. You know, you're making a handful at a time, and so, you know, that makes a difference too. And it's not like I can hire, buy 3 more CNC machines and hire 3 guys to just sit and turn covers out. We're not there, you know, and I don't think we'll ever be there. I don't even want to be there, honestly. I like doing low volume stuff, honestly. I'm not big on repetition, but I enjoy building converters. It's a lot of work. And you can see here, you know, you can see all these welds I put in. And, you know, and there's more. This here has a lot of welds. I still have to weld out here. And, you know, it's very time-consuming work. I'm not even going to tell you what it takes to build these covers. I'm hoping not to have to do this forever, but I think we've got another source now that makes another cover kind of similar to this one, where all I have to do is modify it for it to work. And it's cheaper. I'm trying really hard not to raise the prices on these. That was another thing, that company we were getting from, their covers were pretty expensive too. So anyways, this here, if I got to keep doing them like this, I'm going to have to go up on the cost, unfortunately, and I'm trying hard not to. I still have to weld a pilot on here. It's not even done, but so I don't know. These with the broader performance on them, they're probably going to be limited editions, you know. So get your limited edition broader performance torque converters now before they're gone. But anyway, do a little infomercial for you. But okay, that's kind of the gist of what I had for you today. I'll get into this stuff more, you know, more technical at some point, if you guys are interested in this. And this is a very complicated thing, converters. It's simple in a sense because it's just, you know, sets of fins, but the way they work and picking the application and all that kind of stuff and trying to guess where they're going to stall for a particular application and all that stuff. But I'll do more videos on converter selection, so maybe you're a little less confused. You know, there's a lot of good converter shops out there. You know, a lot of really nice products on the market. Not as many options for Fords as I'd like to see, but you know, some people got them. You know, so there's a lot of good converters out there. There's some bad ones too you got to watch out for. And you got to really watch out that somebody just isn't going to sell you the wrong thing. Because there's a lot of people that'll be like, well, you know, C6, who cares about that? Just sell them one of these 10-inch deals. Build those all day long, no problem. But maybe it's not going to be right for you, you know. And that's what you got to be careful of. A lot of guys will just sell it to you because it's what they got, you know. Or, you know, they'll say, oh, yeah, we can do you a 10-inch, but... I'm sorry, a 12-inch, but, you know, it's not going to have a billet cover or anything. It's just going to be, you know, stock cover, which, you know, if you got power, it may not be what you want. So anyways, guys, I hope this helped you somewhat. And So yeah, we're doing everything we can to keep the options open for you Ford guys. And you know, if I gotta take these 70-pound plates and whittle them down at 10 pounds, whatever I gotta do, I'll keep doing it until there's another option. So all right guys, I'm going on too long here. Thanks for watching. Please support the channel. And you know, if you got any comments about maybe something specifically you want to know about torque converters or anything like that, any specific converter questions, I'm not really going to answer a bunch of, you know, please don't put in the comments, hey, I got this cam, that cam, what converter? Please don't do that to me. But, you know, if there's videos and things on converters, things you want to understand better that maybe somebody else isn't covering, I'll see if I can do that for you. I don't know everything about torque converters. Probably nobody does, but I'll do the best I can. All right, thanks, guys.